Let's start with herbs for the nervous system, because probably, you know, I mean, all of us during COVID time, our nerves are a little bit shot. So I'd like to share with you some herbs that are really simple to take. They're really simple to find, you know, to make tea with, to make tinctures with, and all of that. It's pretty simple. And you've heard of this herb. It's not Greek or anything. It's actually chamomile. And chamomile is one of those herbs that's safe enough for babies. So it's definitely safe for you. I think one of the problems with this world today is sleep. And chamomile helps you sleep like a baby. We use, a lot of people think maybe it doesn't help you sleep because they get a tea bag from the grocery store and put that in a cup of hot water, but actually it does help you, but you may need to use 3 tea bags and you may need to let it sit for at least 10 minutes, maybe even a little bit longer. But definitely you should get a good night's sleep just from chamomile. A lot of people will get a good night's sleep from chamomile.
Quick dovetail in here, super fast. Yeah. When I first met Chris Scott, my co-host for this podcast, who you guys know, and you haven't met him yet, correct?
No.
Well, he's visiting again. I want to make sure that when he comes down in September, you guys get to visit with him. But he told me that after he quit drinking, Chris would do 4 to 6 tea bags of chamomile.
There you go.
And he'd steep it for like 10, 15 minutes, and he would drink that. And I was like, whoa, because I had heard you talk about chamomile and Dad. And I never knew, like, I had tried it, but it didn't seem like powerful enough. So 4 to 6 tea bags, and it's so funny that you're talking about that too. Yeah.
So one caveat here is that it's very uncommon, but some people are actually allergic to chamomile. If you're allergic to western ragweed, then you may also be allergic to chamomile. You could possibly go into anaphylactic shock from that. Very uncommon, as I said, but it's something to know. And most people have had chamomile before, and know they don't react to it. The other thing is that chamomile is a nervine, and which means it is high in minerals that act as electrolytes in the body, and that's how they nourish and balance your nervous system. So it's going to be really important to make sure that the chamomile you're obtaining is organically grown, because commercially grown vegetables and herbs are grown in soils that are depleted of minerals, and so you're not going to get the effect you want if you get a poor quality chamomile.
A big deficiency too when people are quitting alcohol or benzos and certain other drugs, whether they're natural, semi-synthetic, or synthetic, is they'll have GABA deficiencies, gamma aminobutyric acid, or butyric acid. My dad probably knows how to pronounce it. GABA, so that's our brain's natural Valium. It is an inhibitive neurotransmitter that slows down brain signals in the brain, so it kind of quiets your brain down. So it makes sense that drinking a big cup of it with tons of tea bags going to boost that GABA. And then I didn't even know that it had electrolytes, and I've been drinking electrolytes a lot lately, lots more water. So chamomile, there you have it, has electrolytes.
Yeah. And you know, this is an herb that you can definitely grow in your garden, and then you'll be sure it's organic, right? I once had a big patch of chamomile, probably, 3 feet by 3 feet, and it was absolutely gorgeous, and it would call to me every day. It was so pretty out, all the little yellow flowers, and they would call to me every day. And finally I just went over and went, okay, I'm not too busy, I'm going to come sit by you. And when I sat by them, I just went, oh, I get it, you're looking at the sun. And they were so happy. So I call chamomile one of my happy herbs, and it seems to affect a lot of children that way too. You can give them chamomile baths. You can take a chamomile bath. You can drink a cup of chamomile tea, but it seems to be very soothing, not only to the nervous system, but to the stomach as well, and just helps everybody calm the heck down, right?
How would one take a chamomile bath? Because almost daily I'm taking baths that have Epsom salts and other different types of salts like Dead Sea salt and plant essential oils
Yeah.
with like a scented candle in there and beautiful instrumental music. How would one take a chamomile bath or add that to the bath that I was talking about?
Well, you did mention essential oils, and chamomile is an essential oil. It's a little bit expensive. Don't ever buy chamomile that isn't organic, but the organic chamomile is a little expensive. I remember once I didn't know how expensive it was, and I took a whole tablespoon and put it in my bathtub. That was glorious. That was absolutely wonderful. I'd been in pain a lot in my back, and it took the pain right out. It was great. It's anti-spasmodic, right? So, but you can actually just get the chamomile flowers themselves and put them in an old sock, or you can put them in a bath herb bag that you buy, or an old, something that like that, and tie it onto the faucet, and then just run hot water through your bathtub through that, and it'll be glorious.
Nice.
And if you're purchasing essential oil of chamomile, you want to make sure that it's steam distilled, because those are the good quality essential oils. Otherwise, essential oils can be derived from the flowers by using a solvent. It's not as common with chamomile, but you want to make sure that it's organically grown and steam distilled. Then you'll get the good quality essential oil. And as Jane said, it is fairly expensive.
Yeah, but you can always just get a big bag of chamomile. You can order it on Amazon and basically get those flowers and put them, in a bath herb bag or something that you just tie onto your faucet and let run the hot water through it.
And what about that tea with like 3 to 4 tea bags, for example,
Yeah.
for morning or daytime anxiety or mental or physical restlessness
Absolutely.
without going to sleep?
Absolutely. For some people, chamomile is their total ally. I mean, it is the one herb that will make them feel incredible. And it's an herb that you can use as a simple, you can start off, if you're worried about it, you can always start off with 1 tea bag and see how it makes you feel, or a few sips if you think you could possibly be allergic. I'm really not very worried about that in my practice. I've never seen anyone that was. But basically, you can also make tea by, just adding a big handful of chamomile flowers into your hot water and letting it sit without, in hot water, not steaming or not simmering. Thank you, John. Not simmering or boiling, but just sitting. That's called steeping. And you can let it steep with the lid on for like 10 minutes and then drink it that way, and it's quite great. Some people find it a little bit bitter, and it is a little bit bitter. So and that helps actually your stomach and all your digestive processes as well. So in fact, sometimes we mix it with peppermint, and that's called tummy tonic. A lot of times people get upset stomachs just from feeling anxious. So a little bit of peppermint in that chamomile will be really super great.
Yeah, people quitting alcohol and opioids commonly have stomach issues when they're detoxing. Yes. Oh, it just feels so bad.
Yeah. So anyway,
all right, how about
we
Hawthorne?
love chamomile.
I don't think I know anything about the next one on the list, Hawthorne. I've heard it, but I couldn't tell you a single thing about it. Where does that play in, you guys?
You want to talk about Hawthorne, John?
Sure. So Crataegus oxycantha, Hawthorne berry, is a superb heart herb. Being a berry, a fruit, it's got a high in soluble fiber, which is going to lower your serum cholesterol levels. And also it strengthens the heart, Hawthorne. I had a student whose dad was on heart medications, and she made a tincture, soaked the hawthorn berries in some brandy, and made a little heart tonic. And
or you could do it in just glycerin.
Yeah, if you don't want the alcohol. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. This is
No, well, there's
That's
some
good.
people listening are not addicted to alcohol at all,
right. They're just
and they're not
opioids.
worried about it. It's like other drugs.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So And it works fine in a tea also, or you can just grind it up and take it in capsules. But it strengthens the heart, and her dad, after taking this for about a week, was able to get off his heart medication. Now, if you do something like this, of course, you want to do it under the supervision of your doctor instead of just cold turkey on your heart medication. But the Hawthorne is generally safer and more effective than the pharmaceuticals for that.
Yes, Rosemary Gladstar, who basically is who kind of started the renaissance of herbalism in America today, was our teacher, and she really recommended Hawthorne for the heart and also for the blood vessels. I might mention, though, just one disclaimer for it. If you're on heart medication, Hawthorne sometimes has been known to interfere with the heart medication on some interesting level. So she believes that you can take it with heart medication. I always say be safe. Ask your doctor, give it a small try. Always take herbs 4 hours away from any medication that you might be on, and that's a good way to not get too much interaction. So, but Hawthorne is a wonderful herb too to put in your nighttime tea, even along with chamomile if you want. And basically, it holds your spirit inside your heart. That's what they say about Hawthorne. It keeps your spirit from wandering around and puts it back where it belongs, inside your heart chakra. So I love Hawthorne. I think it's a beautiful plant. It's certainly a sacred plant for the Celtics. And it grows really well out here in the northern states, especially up in Oregon and Northern California, maybe. Does it grow back east? I'm sure it does. Grows in England like crazy.
Yeah, it's actually a hedge. The word haw means hedge, and it has thorns on it. Hedge with thorn, Hawthorne. It's also like chamomile, a nervine. So it's also going to nourish and balance your nervous system.
I didn't know that. Good. Wonderful. Yeah, Hawthorne tastes great too. It's one of those herbs, the same way you would take it as chamomile, you would let it simmer maybe a little bit longer. A lot of people, unless it's crushed, you would actually steep it, or you could simmer it because it is a hard berry. So take your pick on that one. A lot of herbalists have a lot of big ideas on how you should do everything, and you can learn yourself what works best for you. It's pretty user friendly.
And then is Hawthorne kind of like Motherwort? Motherwort, the one thing I know about it is that it gladdens your heart.
Oh,
that's all
sweet.
I know.
Well, Motherwort is probably my favorite herb for when before I go to the doctor to get my blood pressure because it actually lowers blood pressure pretty fast. It can stop a racing heart and calm it down. Not stop it, but calm it down. It can, it's super bitter, so it's also great for the liver. And I really love Motherwort because when I use it, I usually combine it with some lavender glycerin to make it taste better. But even so, you don't have to. And I usually use it. It's pretty bitter. It's pretty strong as a tea, but you can definitely drink it as a tea. You can also make it in a glycerin, or you can definitely put it in some tincture. However you do it, a big swig of it or a big cup of it basically will make you feel like you can handle 100 people coming to your house, even though you've been working with people all day.
I'm gonna if you guys have some in your apothecary,
yes.
I'd like to bring home a sample after this.
Yeah, it's pretty great. And we've had, like I said, I have had women just give up their Xanax. They don't even need it because they're on Motherwort and glycerin. In fact, I've had a schizophrenic be able to give up her anti-anxiety meds because she was on Motherwort and glycerin. So, and after a while, you kind of calms your body in general, and you get used to being more calm. So I think it's a pretty incredible herb myself, especially, again, if you have heart palpitations or, racing heart or any of that.
Yeah, one thing to understand, though, is that what's going to make it good for your digestion is, in fact, the bitter flavor. So it's probably better to kind of get over, making it sweet, because if you make it sweet, the receptors on your tongue send a message to the brain that stimulate all your digestive organs. So you're actually better off having that bitter flavor.
Well, glycerin is actually not sugar, so it works pretty good that way, right?
But it's still sweet, and it's the flavor receptor
We disagree.
on the tongue that sends the message to the brain. It doesn't know if it has calories or not, but it's the flavor that's the trigger.
You can also put it with licorice. That's a little bit sweet as well, and it's another adaptogen that's really pretty great.
Yeah,
Are you going to disagree again?
No, that's fine. I could, but and the nice thing about licorice,
That's
we're
funny.
talking about the Chinese root tonic, Glycyrrhiza glabra, and not those black licorice sticks.
True.
That's a candy. Licorice is actually a tonic, a yin tonic. It's strengthening and building to the two most at-risk organs in our body, which are the liver and the adrenals. And of course, alcohol really is, damaging to the liver, and people that are withdrawing have issues with stress, and that's what impacts that stress load is what impacts and damages the adrenals.
Ron Teagarden, too, the founder of Dragon Herbs, master Chinese
Wonderful
herbalist.
herbs. Yeah.
He often talks about licorice as a way to not only those benefits you guys were talking about, but also to relieve and reduce muscle tension
Really?
up in the neck, trapezoids, shoulder areas up here.
Well, I've never noticed that. Yeah.
Yeah, the Chinese
think
call
of that.
licorice the great harmonizer. It's in almost all their patent remedies. It balances the harsher effects of some of the stronger and more bitter Chinese root tonics.
It's a wonderful, wonderful herb. We have another one here too, lemon balm. Lemon balm is probably one of my all-time absolutely favorite herbs for calming people down. Anyone that gets headaches regularly, anyone who gets stomach aches, anyone whose heart needs to feel a little bit lighter and more youthful will definitely benefit from lemon balm, and also just from calming, so just that whole nerving effect, but it's a digestive effect. It has a brain effect also, and that brain effect is to just just make your brain feel a little bit more clear, a little bit more youthful, and I don't know why that is exactly, but Dioscorides was talking about it. He's an old Greek herbalist from way back.
It's an antiviral too, right?
Oh gosh, yes, and it's an antiviral. Thank you.
It's like a mild sedative. I
Yes.
can't remember if it boosts GABA. It's been a while since I've talked about
It
that.
relieves fever. Yeah. So I use it in a lot of my formulas for people that have gotten COVID. So, and it works really well. Yeah.
The first addiction detox supplement I ever saw was probably like 12 years ago.
Right.
I saw it online when I was living in upstate New York,
Yeah.
when I was addicted to opioids, and it was a formula. It's out of business now, but it was called Withdrawal Ease, and one of the main ingredients was lemon balm, and
Nice.
it showed like the benefits for the stomach, for the nervous system, and for other things, and that was a
For
great
headaches,
addition.
yeah.
And I tried it,
And
and
anxiety.
that product worked really good back then.
Yeah, it's the one herb that helps my daughter every time. She was very sensitive growing up, very nervous, and she'd get headaches pretty easily and stomach aches. She'd get really bad migraines. And I found if I just made her a cup of fresh lemon balm tea, and I would go pick it out of my garden, I could show you some right now, except some of the critters really like my lemon balm. Around here they love it. I have healthy bugs.
Yeah, what about you,
Insects.
Dad, on lemon balm?
Yeah, on lemon balm, Melissa officinalis in the mint family one of my favorite herbs for sure. They say lemon balm is for melancholy, for
Yes,
finding
for
yourself
grief.
in life situations
Yeah.
you're not ready to accept. It's
That's true.
yeah, it's antidepressant, as we had said, antiviral. It's also a nervine, like the chamomile and the hawthorne berry. So it's relaxing to the body, nourishing the nervous system, and yeah, the essential oil for this herb is really expensive, but very, very, very effective. The best way to do it really is grow it yourself. Excuse me, grow it yourself, because when it dries, it's going to lose. Once all the water is evaporated out of it, a good portion of the essential oil is going to be lost. And the fact that there's not much essential oil in it in the first place is what makes that essential oil so darn expensive. But it can actually even be vaporized, and you can vaporize the fresh leaves of that. You don't have to dry it to burn it, to smoke it, but you can just put it in a vaporizer, the fresh leaves, and the vaporizer will dry it out enough to release the vapors from that and the essential oil. And I actually was hired by 2 NASA engineers to conduct a herbal vapor therapy study, and one of the herbs that we used in that study was lemon balm, and that scored really high. People really, really liked it, in the vaporizer, and that was even using the dry herb. But my preference is using the fresh.
Yes, and one other thing, my daughter and I fell so in love with lemon balm, and then one day, years later, I was reading this little tea book, and it was talking about King Louis, I think from the 1600s, whichever one that was in France, basically had proclaimed that they should grow lemon balm in every garden, and that's exactly what Callie and I had been saying about lemon balm when we were in love with it when she was young. We were saying, wow, this should be in everyone's garden, and then we read that the King of France had proclaimed that, so we were pretty like, oh my gosh. That was good validation. I do want to say too that you can lemon balm really responds to you talking with it and telling it what you want to do with that herb. One night I remember when Matt, if I can tell this little story, he had gone back to New York because his girlfriend was having a baby, and she wanted him to be the baby daddy, and it was Christmas, and I was concerned about him going back, and I was pretty sad. So I took the lemon balm, some fresh lemon balm that I still had in the garden, and I put it in a cup of water and set it out in the moonlight. When you set herbs in the moonlight, it kind of helps them become more to heal your emotions. So I did that, and I let it sit for about an hour and brought it in. I warmed it up, and what I found was every time I took a sip of it, my heart just sort of opened, and I wasn't sad. I went, oh, that feels so good, And then another thing with lemon balm, you can actually take a bath in it as well. And I took a bath in fresh lemon balm once, and it wouldn't let me get out of the bathtub. It was so relaxing, and I felt like I had a moon goddess sitting on my bathtub just saying, oh, I would try to get up, and she'd say, oh, no, 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 you sit right back down there. So if you can't relax, get in a bath with the moon balm, with the lemon balm.
Ooh, moon balm, that's a cool name.
Moon balm, yeah. And then and drink that tea, and you'll be feeling pretty darn good. Okay?
Yeah, and lavender.
Lavender. Do you want to start with
I
lavender?
use lavender daily.
Oh, you do? What do you do, Matt?
In the baths, I put
you're
lavender
really doing it, yeah.
either in the bath or in the diffuser, peppermint and lavender while I'm working.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, so lavender is another mint family plant. A lot of people just really love lavender.
Yes.
I put it in my, I make an herbal beauty cream, and I put it in there. Lavender is another antidepressant, another herb that's good for finding yourself in life situations that are difficult. We've extracted it in glycerin before because it's fairly bitter. But I was out in the yard one day, and Jane took her pre-clinic class out there to make a flower essence, actually, with some herb. And I was sitting on the bench, and one of my students came over to me and said, "What are you doing, John?" And I said, "What does it look like I'm doing?" She said, "Well, it looks like you're sitting there with lavender flower shoved up your nose."
Oh dear.
And she said, "What are you doing that for?" I said, "Why don't you try it and see?" A few hours later, she came up to me after Jane's class was over, and she said, "John, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. This has been the best day of my life." Because every time she breathed in through her nose, that essential oil was going to that limbic region of the brain, the deep memory, and just giving her that incredible experience. By then, of course, I'd long taken mine out. But yeah, lavender is really incredible in that way.
Yes, and it's such a quick fix if you have lavender and glycerin, it's such a quick fix to just take a little bit internally and just feel so much calmer. You don't have to do it with the motherwort. That's just kind of how my favorite thing. But you can do it just with the lavender and glycerin. You can put a little lavender in tea. A lot of people like chamomile and lavender tea at night before they go to bed. For some people, the lavender is stimulating.
Really?
To take a bath in lavender at night will refresh them and wake them up instead of making them drowsy. So before you're counting on lavender to put you to sleep at night, you better try it at some other time so it doesn't keep you awake. I love even a little lavender on your wrist sometimes can help you sleep, and sometimes it can just help you feel better about everything. Lavender is pretty incredible herb, yeah. And they have lavender farms, and those are really fun to go visit. We have one here in San Diego, and it's just it just makes you feel happy. We've been talking about some pretty happy herbs, but lavender really helps you feel peace as well. Just a lot of peace. And it's very refreshing. It'll make you feel fresh. So if you've been around a lot of negative energy, you might want even a spritzer of lavender essential oil, and then you can put it around you after you've been dealing with a lot of trauma or negative energy. A lot of times at Christmas when people come to our house, I'll spray them. I'll either sage them with some smoke from the white sage plant, or I'll spray them with some lavender essential oil, and both work really good for helping them just kind of relax and be a little clearer, not feel so upset. Oh, I know a lavender story. Can I tell it?
Yeah,
or do we have
please.
time?
We do.
I tell this one a lot at our gift making workshop in December. But when I was younger, and all these kids like Matt and Benny and Callie were all my little kids, and then we'd host Christmas at our house because we had the big house, and our family would come down from Northern California, and my sister would come over, and then my sister-in-law would come over, and all their families. And I remember one Christmas, it was Christmas Eve, and I woke up and I was tired and grumpy, and everyone had left. The whole house was a complete disaster, and I had so much to do besides cooking. Now I had to clean everything all over again. I was really irritated, and I left the house in a big huff, and I was really mad. I was walking down the hill, kind of mumbling under my breath, and then I saw some flowers, and I thought, oh, if I could just get some flowers, then I know I'll be okay, So then I walked down to the little herb shop down the street from us, which was owned by our students, and our friend Arisha was there, and I was telling her the story and how grumpy I was, and she kept making me smell every different kind of essential oil of lavender there was, until I finally calmed down and wasn't angry anymore. And I called home to tell John I need some flowers, but he wasn't there. And I walked to the beach, and I sat down on a hill and I meditated, and Santa Claus showed up, and I thought, oh, that's interesting. That hadn't happened before.
The spirit of Santa
Yeah, the
Claus.
spirit of Santa. And he said, well, what do you want for Christmas, little girl? And I said, well, I'd just like to get some flowers. And he goes, well, that's easy. And I went, okay. I just, and I wasn't thinking much about it. It just seemed like that was weird. Okay, fine. So I walked back to the herb shop, and I walked back home. And when I got home, no sooner had I got home than John walked up the stairs with a huge bouquet of flowers. And to this day, he tells me it was a little birdie told him, not Arisha. Was it a birdie or was it Arisha?
It was a birdie.
Okay. So anyway, there was Santa sending me flowers, and then my sister came in and brought me flowers. My daughter-in-law called, and she said, how are you doing, Jane? And before that, I said, well, I'm grumpy. She said, well, come on. I think I called her from the herb shop. She said, well, come on home. We already cleaned the whole house, and we bought you flowers. And then my sister-in-law came over, and she brought flowers. And my daughter, not my daughter, my actual sister came over and brought me flowers. And then my little boy came over, Benny, and he was like 9 years old, and he came running up the stairs, and he was so cute, and he handed me these 3 kind of limp roses. And he said, Mom, I forgot who I am. He said, the lady at the herb shop, I only had enough money for 1 rose for you, but she gave me 3.
At the flower shop.
At the flower shop, yeah. So that was so cute. And I cried. It was very sweet. And I thought, wow, next year I better ask Santa Claus for something even better,
I'm doing an online course
go
right
ahead.
now from a lady that's Australian,
Yeah.
and her course is great. It's about energy. It's about basically, it's kind of like an entrepreneurship course, but it's more like kind of like how to have a soul-based business type style.
Oh, nice.
And she loves flowers so much. I forget her exact favorite kind, but she has like a flower budget.
Right.
And even though they die, I think it's like $25 a week, she just makes sure she always has fresh flowers, because it makes her feel way
Happy.
better being around those types of
Happy.
things in her home and in her office. How about, I keep thinking that says scallops, but that's skullcap.
It does, but we were just talking about the rose.
Oh yeah.
Now
rose.
you need to take a rose bath for sure. That's going to be incredible. And you can buy roses online pretty easily. Again, buy organic roses. And if you take a rose bath, you're going to feel very loved and very happy. And you can definitely put them in tea, and it'll just be super soothing. You want to say something, John?
Well, rose opens the heart. That's why a lot of times, guys will give their wives or girlfriends, a dozen roses, for example.
That would be nice.
Yeah, and actually, the rose flower, the vibrational aspect of that as a flower essence, is for love of life. And so, if you take that flower essence, a few drops of that, and say the affirmation, "I love life," then if you were feeling like life sucks and then you die, in a very short time you're going to feel gratitude for having breath come into you and keeping you alive.
Nice.
Absolutely. Our nephew just died. He was 34 and he just died. And, people were bringing flowers and flowers and flowers. And, it really helped to have those flowers around. It really took care of people's hearts and made them feel like they could, just bear it a little bit more. Very sweet.
At the inpatient treatment programs, where people go residential treatment, whether it's 30 days or 60 days or 90 days, something like that. It's often in like medical facility settings where there's fluorescent lights, not a lot of beauty, doctors and nurses in outfits. What if there was like a treatment program that was in beautiful, like 5 acres of beautiful forest and land, and there was just giant gardens, rose gardens and flower gardens, just gardens and gardens and streams in koi fish ponds, just everywhere, and like gong music going around, just like a super peaceful place with like elixir bars doing like
That'd be
Chinese
great.
tonic herb elixirs
And good organic food. Yeah, I think we all need these things and should basically give these gifts of nature to ourselves, whether you drink the teas or whether you walk in the trees, you're going to get healing. Like we're sitting under this beautiful pine tree right now, and pine trees definitely give you a feeling and an energy of peace, and they also help you deal with guilt. So just being in pine trees can relieve so much trauma that people have been through. And I think Matthew has just the absolute right idea. So walks in the park, I know in Balboa Park here in San Diego, we have a Japanese garden, and that garden has cherry blossoms in it. And cherry blossoms are so sweet. They have so much love. You feel unity, you feel peace, and almost every flower has some kind of, some kind of essence that's been attached to it, that, like zinnias I'm looking at right now, are for childlike joy and peace. So, even if you only have one plant in your house that you love, or if you grow a whole garden, it's going to be just something very uplifting to get you out of sorrow and sadness and back, to your own truth within yourself, and a little bit more joy. What do you think, Johnny?
Yeah, well, the thing about the plants is they're grounded. They're connected. They're connected to the earth. They're connected to their own spirit. And they do have a spirit. They're living beings. They've been here 1,000 times longer than we have. We're the new kids on the block. They're very evolved in this world. And they have just such a sweet spirit, all of them, that just being around plants. That's why if you go for a walk in nature, you almost always come back feeling better, because you've been influenced by these plant beings that are in harmony with the nature around them and with themselves. They're grounded and connected. And that's a great part of our dis-ease, which we call disease, is that we're not grounded, we're not connected. And a large part of how the plants heal us is by reconnecting us to the earth and to our own spirit.
Some of the herbs we left off before, I think it was for your heart, herbs for your heart mostly, and herbs for nervines and natural sedatives and mood boosters and lots of various actions. So we're going to finish up those, then we're going to go into adaptogens, one of my favorite topics, and there's lots of different wonderful adaptogens. And so with that, my mom, this is Jane Richmond, and that's my dad, John Finch. They're the founders of Self-Heal School of Herbal Studies and Healing here in San Diego, California, where they've been teaching herbology and other natural medicine modalities for several decades here in Southern California. So you can start us off, Mom, and thanks so much.
Oh, great. Well, we certainly enjoyed sharing yesterday, and we're happy to continue. We just couldn't get it all in. So we're going to talk a little bit about a couple more nervines that I think are really super important for building your nervous system. Skullcap, in fact, is one of the herbs we're going to talk about right now. Skullcap, basically it is a nervine that really helps you sleep, but it restores the nervous system, and it's been used probably for centuries to help with delirium tremens, and did I say that right?
Yeah.
And insomnia, and just restoring the nervous system. Sort of if you're jittery or shaky or just fried, Skullcap is definitely the herb for you. And I know John loves this herb especially. Do you want to say anything about it, John?
Sure. Skullcap, Scutellaria lateriflora, is a really beautiful herb in the first place. But what we say about Skullcap is that it quiets nerve fire. So in the last episode we talked about nervines, and that they contain electrolytes. They contain minerals, and minerals are conductors, which means they conduct electricity. And our nervous system, in fact, is electrochemical. And so the nervines provide these minerals. As long as the herb is grown organically or harvested from the wild, then it'll have these minerals in there, and it helps to quiet nerve fire. So it's something that's really good for withdrawals or for stress.
There's a product called, it's from the company Gaia Herbs. I have no affiliation with them whatsoever. I'm not sure if it's still on the market, but it's called Sound Sleep.
Right.
And I'm it was either that product or another one. They used to have one called Serenity. And they were liquid phytocap. So I guess extracts of herbal nervines. And I think the combination I'm talking about had Skullcap, Valerian, Passionflower, maybe lemon balm in there too, and kava. And so I've used that before for coming off, way back in the day, used that for coming off of alcohol or for anxiety. And I remember one of my friends, she was coming off Xanax, and fast forward many years, this is when I first started being a recovery coach, and she was asking me, what are some Xanax alternatives? I told her to go down to the People's Food Store Co-op and see if they have Gaia Herbs Serenity. She went and got that, and she just took one of those soft gel phytocaps 3 times a day, and she said it was so powerful that she was able to easily taper off. And she was on a small dose of Xanax daily. It wasn't in anything serious. But then, I've recommended those different types of formulas to a lot of people. I don't know much about Skullcap, though.
Skullcap is definitely in my sleep formula every night, and it just quiets the mind. A lot of people say it's good for meditation too. If you drink it before you meditate, your meditation will be a lot smoother, a lot quieter, and a lot of people have that racing mind at night before they go to bed, so Skullcap is another herb that really helps with that. But Matthew mentioned Passionflower, and that is one of my all-time favorite herbs for sleep and anxiety and just feeling better in general, feeling incredible. I know when Matt was young, I did some cards for him, and he was asking me about things, and he picked a card from the herbal tarot deck, and it was Passionflower. So I made him up like a little 1-ounce tincture and told him to take like a dropper full before bed, and then to get the energy of that to just take 3 drops. Anyway, so Matt drew the Passionflower herb, and then I made his bed before he went to bed, and then in the morning he said to me, "Mom, that was the best sleep I ever had. How did you make my bed last night so great?" And I had to laugh because I knew it was the Passionflower. And actually, I'd heard that story again at some convention I was at. I had a gal who was sleeping next door, and I'd given everybody Passionflower, and she was telling her friend, she said, your bed is so much more comfortable than mine. So Passionflower really, really helps you relax deeply and gives you that kind of just full-on deep sleep. There's probably a lot of people who have studied all the dream states and things like that could tell you about Passionflower and sleep. But that's basically what I've heard. People just love it. You also kind of have a lot of dreams that are technicolor, but they always seem very uplifting to me anyway when I do Passionflower. What about you, John?
Dad knows a lot about Passionflower.
Yeah.
I bet he does. Yeah.
Well, there's 2 Passionflowers. Passiflora incarnata is the medicinal one. The other Passionflower has a fruit that sometimes people, Passiflora edulis, they grow for the fruit, but incarnata is the one that helps people sleep. It's interesting how it works. So the neurotransmitter that puts us to sleep is actually serotonin. And serotonin is a short-acting, dark-activated neurotransmitter. So in other words, when it gets dark, our brain releases that.
You talking about melatonin or serotonin?
Yeah, either one.
Okay.
I mean, they convert into each other.
Right.
So when that neurotransmitter is released, it tells you sleep, sleep, sleep. But then an enzyme comes and takes that apart. It's done its job. That enzyme is monoamine oxidase. And so what Passionflower does is it inhibits that enzyme. It's an MAOI, a monoamine oxidase inhibitor, so that it actually binds with the that enzyme and binds with it for like 4 or 5 hours, and then it releases it so that that enzyme goes ahead and takes that neurotransmitter apart, and you wake up in the morning with no drug hangover and a good night's sleep.
I want to do a little disclaimer at this point as well. So if you're on like Ambien or any of the other drugs that they use for sleep, don't combine them with herbs. It gives you just too strong of an effect. So that's kind of my words of wisdom for that.
And Passionflower is a natural anxiolytic, antidepressant, sleep aid, tummy tonic aid, and it boosts natural levels of GABA and then serotonin and dopamine, I believe, but mostly GABA.
Yes, I had one client who Passionflower was her complete ally. She had come to me because her dad had died, and she'd gone to a psychiatrist who kept trying to give her, because she found that she was just crying all the time, and he tried to give her all these different pharmaceutical drugs, but one of them just didn't register with her, so she wanted to see if there was anything herbal that would help. She was actually a nurse, and the drug that he had given her was making her feel like jumping off her motorcycle and chopping off people's heads. And she said, "Jane, that's not like me. I'm a nurse." So I'm laughing in a way, but I kind of wonder about other people that are taking, sometimes a pharmaceutical will work for you and sometimes it won't. So you have to really work with your doctor.
Right.
Anyway, she was able to get off it because of Passionflower, and she was able to function and be normal in the world and all that. And she just fell in love with the plant. She actually picked the leaves off of the one with the fruit, and did just fine with that, and made her own teas at home. So either way, it kind of works. Yeah.
And do you recommend, you drink a lot of Passionflower tea before bed mixed with other things as well? Do you still do that?
I usually mix up my, sometimes I'll do some herbs before bed, and then I'll change them out. But Passionflower is definitely one of my favorite to have in the herb tea. Yep.
Okay, cool. And then we got Valerian?
Yeah, and you can take Passionflower just on its own too. It's just fine. We have Valerian. I'm just going to let John talk about that for a while, because that's like his favorite herb. It smells like dirty socks, by the way.
Dirty gym socks.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Valerian officinalis, we use the root of that, and it does taste pretty bad, but it's a very effective nervine and sedative and muscle relaxer. So again, the muscle relaxing property, antispasmodic, is partly due to the calcium in it, high amount of calcium. But again, if it's not organically grown or harvested from the wild, those minerals won't be in it. So you want to make sure you always get high quality herbs. Otherwise, it's something that is good skeletal muscle relaxer. So if you have cramps in your muscles, it's really excellent for that. And if that's something that's been preventing you from sleeping well, it'll affect that. At the same time, it's a nervine, and we've been talking about nervine, herbs with minerals in them that help with your nervous system. And if you're withdrawing from alcohol or drugs, then you have extra stress, which gives you more nerve excitement. That more nerve excitement actually burns out the minerals in your synapses, and so the term is burned out, really, and it's a very appropriate term Whereas if you reinforce, if you supplement herbs that provide those minerals, then it keeps that nerve fire more calm and steady, and you don't get so jumpy and irritated and irritable. It's interesting, they did a study with valerian, and you would think that it would, since it's a central nervous system depressant, that it would slow down your reaction time, but they actually did a study where, like when I took driver training in high school, we had a little trailer we went in, and you had a little steering wheel and all that stuff like a car. And at one point they had a reaction test where you saw a red light and then you hit the brake, and it measured the amount of time it took from that red light to that brake. And they found actually that people on valerian had faster reaction times.
Whoa.
I was a professional drummer, and valerian was one of the herbs that I took in combination with ashwagandha and some other things to help me drum, and it really did help. So the thing is, if you do too much valerian, you're going to end up with a drug hangover in the morning. You'll be kind of groggy. And so you want to watch the dosage on that. It doesn't take a whole lot to get you there.
I love valerian, but too much of it doesn't work for me. It wakes me up. So that is a little problem with this herb. You have to kind of see if it's an herb for you. But it really relaxes your whole musculoskeletal system. It's very anti-spasmodic. And it also, I found that even one drop of a tincture of valerian was enough to help me have a whole sound night's sleep. Just one drop. Anything more than that, and it seemed like it was just too much. But a lot of people think that valerian is actually what they make Valium with, but it's not true. It's not true.
Well, it boosts, valerian boosts natural GABA.
That's right.
And GABA's our brain's endogenous neuropharmacy's
Yes.
Valium, endogenous Valium. So that's kind of
So
cool.
definitely you could use it in replace of something like with Valium, but not with Valium, right? A lot of people want to get even more relaxed, but really don't mix these herbs, especially valerian's so strong.
And
So-
what I say about valerian is that
Yeah.
it's not reliable, and by that I mean valerian has two separate compounds in it, valipotriates they're called. One set actually nourishes and supports the sympathetic nervous system, which is more in dominance when you're awake, and one of them supports the parasympathetic nervous system, which is more in dominance when you're asleep or in meditation. And so depending on your biorhythm, where your biorhythm is at the time, valerian can actually wake you up, even if you take it at night. So
it's like a double direction, like some of the Chinese herbs
That's
have
right.
a double direction. It could give you energy depending on your physiology and biochemistry and state, or it can make you more relaxed, or it can make you kind of relaxed and energized at the same time, which is my favorite.
It's pretty terrific in that way. It does work that way as well, Matt, if you take it during the day. Some people really suggest, some herbalists suggest that if you want to use valerian for sleep, that you actually take like a dropper full or less 3 times a day during the day, and then you're more likely to be healing your nervous system and be more ready for sleep at night.